Tonight, can we get right? Tonight, can we get right? Whoa, Hey, I need some of your love tonight.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Sunny. Hi, Ashleigh. How are
Hello.
you?
What's going on?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good evening.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Good evening to you guys.
Yeah. It's a cool
Yeah.
though.
You guys look very happy and pleasant today.
It was a nice Sunday here on the east coast of the States, and bright, got some sun today, so we're doing good.
Awesome. I hope you guys are healthy and doing well there, despite all the chaos that's been going on. But yeah, I tuned into your message just now, and you said that you gotta be a little bit hurried. Is it?
Yeah. We've got a presentation, so probably we'll stick around for as long as we can, but probably about 30 minutes or so.
Yeah. It's okay. Just cue me if the time is up.
All right, cool. Sounds good.
Yeah. So, wow, you guys are actually the ladies that behind Motor Branding Agency, which, to be very honest, I've been looking up from miles away to your agency, because I think starting off with HigherPurpose last time, I don't know how to craft brand purpose, and I listened one time with Sunny's, I think, doing a podcast on it, and I was really inspired by it. And it's a really privilege to host you guys here. And today we have a very special topic. I believe that you both have been co-authoring this book called Rare Breed. And honestly, I haven't purchased the book. As for that. Because you know what? Actually, this last April, I was meant to go to New York, and I was hopefully to get that, like, the real copy of the book.
Yeah.
But despite of the things, today I just want to prepare an element of surprise for you guys to surprise me somehow. But
all right, cool. We'll get you a copy. We'll get you a copy. How's that?
Cool. And I also encourage everybody's here that's tuning in. Hello, everybody. And if you want to get the book, it's on Amazon, right?
Amazon. You can get it actually everywhere books are sold for the most part, like Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, Porchlight. Trying to think of where else you can get it.
Everywhere.
Well, lots of local bookstores have them too. So
I see. All right. So I think since this is the first time that we met virtually, but as well as maybe some of us here doesn't know you guys personally of what are you doing and what Moto is doing. So maybe you can introduce to us about yourselves and also Moto.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sure, yeah, I would love to. First of all, let me put some names to faces. So I'm Ashleigh, red hair, crazy red hair. Sunny is always the one with the hat. That's how we get distinguished. And again, I just want to start by saying thank you so much for sharing that with us, that we have inspired you for quite so long time.
Wow.
That's really special and meaningful to us. We really appreciate that, and I'm so glad that we were able to do that.
Thank you so much for that. That's amazing.
And congratulations on your agency as well. So I'll give you a little bit of background. So Sunny and I started Motto, about 15 years ago now. So it was about 2015 when we started. When we were quite young, we were in our early 20s, and we decided, hey, what the heck, let's start an agency. And, it just was one of those things very early on where we didn't have a lot of experience. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have a lot of know-how, but we had a vision to start something that meant something.
And a whole lot of audacity.
Some audacity and some rebelliousness sprinkled into the mix there.
Yeah.
And so we started Motto. And Motto today is now a branding agency that is based in New York City. We have clients around the world, and what we do is really work with purpose-driven companies to help them develop brands and ideas worth rallying around. We love so much being able to work with companies that have a sense of vision and purpose, and who need help to clarify and articulate their brand and what their brand is, what it stands for, why it matters. And so our job is really to come in to help them iron out all of that, make sense of everything, and then develop a brand that that can help distinguish them in the market. And back in September, we launched a book that we co-wrote, which is, again, Rare Breed, a guide to success for the defiant, dangerous, and different. And that's really what we're here to talk with you today. That's a little bit of background. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, the book, you said it beautifully. I mean, the book really is a source of, it's been kind of a labor of love. You know, it's something that we've worked really hard on. We worked for several years to kind of, put it together. And now it is, I think it's a really needed book in the market right now for companies and individuals who have felt like the things that they've been told that are counterintuitive to their success and what these traits are that we go into detail in the book are actually things that can be reframed and turned into virtues and superpowers in your company, your life, your career, your work. And we're just getting a lot of feedback from people around the world who have read it and are really excited about it and really touched them and changing their life and making them think very differently about the path that they're on. So yeah, it's we've been at it a long time, and this book is kind of just one tool that we feel like we developed to help other people that were kind of where maybe we were 15 years ago when we were starting out and didn't have a lot of resources to go to. A lot of it was just our gut, bravery, audacity, foolishness, like all the things that you kind of have to be in order to be entrepreneurial. Yeah. And how do you make sense of that and make it into a career? And that's kind of what we did. So this is the book we kind of would have liked to have had maybe when we started out.
Wow, amazing. That's such a story. I mean, a journey to write a book. And it's been 15 years. Motto has been 15 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you believe it? We can't.
Well, what's interesting about our story is we dropped out of college together in our early 20s with $250 to our bank account. And we were in a very small town where there were only a couple of established players, mostly advertising agencies. And we were, kind of up against the old guard, so to speak. And so for us to be young women, female led, which is kind of rare in this industry anyway. So the fact that we were able to do that, we were able to, kind of defy the odds and really make an agency into now working with clients as big as Google and 20th Century Fox. And, we've really ran the gamut. And, I remember when we started our agency, we used to sit in the office and be like, wouldn't it be so cool if we could work with, Google? And then like here we're working with Google, so it's really cool to have sort of, held yourself accountable to making those dreams a reality, trying to make whatever you were feeling and trying to do and all the tenacity that you have to have, that you can in fact do it if you have a lot of the traits that are in the book. Some of the traits that you need to have, I think, are in this book. So we're super excited to share it with you.
Thank you. That's really inspiring. I mean, I'm also a female, and not just in US, I mean in Indonesia as well. Like it's maybe 0.1%, maybe 0.001.
0.1, exactly.
Yeah.
We're a rare breed.
Yep.
Yeah. So, from my point of view, I mean, speaking of the title of the book itself, it's called Rare Breed, which I think it's already very bold name. And for my own thinking, that to be rare, it usually needs to be a risker, not all time a well-measured risker, but sometimes it needs to be like a high risker that knows that stakes are high in the crowded market. And also to be rare, sometimes it needs to be a category breaking. And also it needs to stand against the status quo and challenge ourselves on how to come up with like a better ideology, better solutions for our better future, right? So I believe somehow we're in this pandemic time as well. We are cornered in our home, in our quarantine times, to come up with something that is much more safe, much more comfort, and maybe playing only in the mainstream areas so that it generates fast income to somehow cover up things that we have lost. But maybe not so many are there themselves to be daring and also deviant and dangerous, like you mentioned just now. So I would give you some time maybe to help us to understand what's the importance of brands and maybe brand owners to have these rare breed qualities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you're right. It is a really strange time in the world right now. We are seeing a lot of companies kind of fall back into their into that safety zone. You know, they don't know what the future of their business might be. They don't know what the future of their industry might be.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of fear that's happening in business right now. But I also think this is a beautiful opportunity for most people in business and most people in general. And this applies to your career as well, where we actually have the time and the pause to think about what we want in our lives. And, you know, we can take this time to really do the inner work that so many people never give themselves permission to do in the first place, which is asking themselves who they are and what they value and what their purpose is and what they really want to do with the rest of their lives. And maybe that does mean that you have to think a little short term because we are in a weird spot. But I think we have an opportunity also to think more long term and start to seed in and start to work on ourselves and start to, you know, listen to our own voice. We are told mostly from the time we're born by our parents and our teachers and our mentors and people who love us and maybe people who might not want us to succeed, what we can be and what we can't be, what we should do and what we shouldn't do. And a lot of people just listen to that path. They go down that traditional path of what their parents want for them or what they think they're supposed to do or be. And I think a lot of people that are also in business as well get stuck in that moment where they're not really living their lives, running their businesses, or having a job or career that they truly like fulfills them. So right now, I think we can take the opportunity to kind of, like I said, look inward and start to explore who we are and kind of tease out those things that Sonny was talking about our vices, turning those into virtues and figuring out maybe we are a little rebellious. Maybe we have audacious, crazy dreams. Maybe we are super obsessed and nobody quite understands us. Or maybe we're very sensitive and emotional people and everybody tells us not to be those things. Maybe if we learn to leverage them, if we learn to understand them, then we can turn those things into our gifts and into our superpowers. We can figure out how to translate that into not making it a negative thing and not fearing that, but we can learn to figure out how we bring that forward and make that the thing that we become known for, which is what a rare breed really does. They lean into who they are. Not even all the pretty parts, you know, sometimes these are complicated personality traits that we have. And they learn to figure out how to use that to their benefit instead of their demise.
Yeah. And what's really interesting about the book is we explore these 7 vices that we have reframed as virtues, but what's interesting about them is they have a positive side and a negative side. So it was really important as we were thinking through the 7 that each one of them they were sort of as uplifting as they were undoing. So the 7 traits are rebellious, audacious, obsessed, weird, hot-blooded, hypnotic, and emotional. Now these are all things that society and, you know, the normal things are things that you should not be, or traits that you should not embody, or that they're dangerous qualities. And in fact, they can be. We've all heard, wow, you're so emotional, or wow, you're a little bit, you know, that he's super weird, or, you know, this person, the audacity of this person, you know, what does Elon Musk think about putting people on, you know, Mars? So, you know, but those are the people that change the world. And what we learned over the last 15 years of working with leaders and organizations and, you know, what made a rare breed and what didn't was this sort of one defining fact, which is while everyone else around rare breeds are suppressing their sort of pain in the ass oddball qualities, rare breeds are really leaning into them. They're really celebrating them. They're letting them off the leash to vandalize tradition. And that makes the ability to make change forward. It makes it's you're able to make change happen because you're the one that's willing to take the arrow in the back. And I think, you know, we, as we said, like, we're all guilty of telling people that we love, hey, you know, you should really kind of stick the safe path because you don't want them to get hurt. You know, you don't want them to, you know, your parents might be like, we don't want you living under a bridge, you know, you need to have like a plan B. I do it to my niece all the time. My niece is 22 and in college, and I literally, like, you know, am consistently, I'm like telling her all the time, you know, what path she should probably take, and, you know, how she should weigh everything. And then I'm like, oh my God, but I wrote the book on being defiant, dangerous, and different. So, you know, but the thing that I sort of remind her, and the thing that I find myself reminding her, is find the thing that you love, you know, and not like a hobby, but like find the thing that that you can have purpose in, that you can wake up every day excited to go to do that thing, whatever that thing is. And I think for people right now, especially who have been, you know, affected by COVID and, you know, have been furloughed or laid off, or, you know, they're all sort of like wondering, like, you know, what is their next move? Because so many of us, like, our identity is in our job, it's in our work. And what I think we realized when writing Rare Breed specifically was that your traits are your traits no matter what table you're sitting at, no matter what job you're working in. Your traits are in you, and those can be used in whatever your career is. You just have to find ways to make those things come alive, and you can find ways to realize that and make it you know, the thing that makes you the standout. It doesn't have to be maybe in the career that you were in right now. Maybe you find yourself another job, or you find something, a different gear that you're getting into, but that's okay. You know, as long as you know what those traits are and you understand what that primary sort of virtue is within you, then you can take that next step, you know, without fear.
So, wow, thank you so much for such a brief, comprehensive, and, you know, like, the whole package of the summarize of the book, I guess. But I was wondering, like, you name 7 vices, you said, like 7 traits. Maybe you can elaborate, like, one trait that is so bold, like, I mean, maybe stand out, so that we can learn from it, like how to be a rare breed.
Well, I think one thing you could do is take the quiz, right? Maybe
Yeah.
kind of interesting.
So you asked about, you want us to talk about one of the virtues, you think, or what?
Or
what
maybe
was the question?
how does somebody find that primary virtue within them?
Yeah. I think just now you mentioned 7 of them, right? Maybe you can pick one and elaborate one thing, like.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of our first virtue that we write about in the book, which is the first one because it is almost the mouth to all of them, is rebellious. And we chose rebellious as a virtue because it is so easy to be part of the crowd. It takes no effort. It takes no effort to kind of do what everybody else is doing. What takes a tremendous amount of effort and courage and bravery is challenging the status quo and figuring out how you can break something that is not working. And so we talk a lot about rebellious people, rebellious rare breeds specifically, and how they really, we call it hurling themselves against the walls of business as usual to see what breaks. And if you can learn how to be a good rebel, you know, because there's a pro and a con to that, right? There's a dangerous duality to that. Sometimes rebels exist for no cause, and therefore then their virtue is an actual vice. You know, it is to their detriment. But if you can learn to really kind of take that very defiant, disruptive, ungovernable, almost insubordinate personality that you have, or that trait that you have, and learn to figure out how to tweak that and turn that and leverage that into something that really propels your business forward, that is a beautiful way to stand apart from the crowd. And we all know in branding, that's the ultimate goal, is to really not just be authentic to who you are as a leader or as a brand or a business, but to be different than everybody else. And it's so hard to do. In theory, it seems so cliche, but it's actually very difficult to do because most people are risk adverse. They don't like change. They don't like to take the risk because there's so much feeling that we have that we can't fail. And if this goes wrong, everything's gonna, fall apart, or, we get so overwhelmed by what happens if this doesn't work. And so what happens in that situation is that nobody tries.
Yeah.
But, if you can really use your rebelliousness as an asset, and you can learn to harness that to push boundaries and to confront wrongs and to give a voice to the voiceless, or to birth something unprecedented, there's so much power in that. So rebellious, I think, and not every rare breed is rebellious. That's why we have 7 of them. But that's one of the 7 virtues that we talk a lot about in the book. It's what we open up the book with, because it is so impactful if you can do it right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we also have what's kind of really cool about what we did in addition to the book is we created a quiz where we worked with someone who was a psychologist and professor who helped us shape a personality trait quiz that you can take. That's about 28 questions. It's actually, a lot of people we've had, I think, probably close to 20,000 people take it already since we launched it. And it's just at rarebreedquiz.com. You answer these questions and it actually tells you what your primary dominant vice is and explains to you in depth what it means to have that trait and how to use it as your, as a strength, and also when it can be a weakness. And it's been really remarkable to see how many people have taken it and to kind of see the graph of like what most people are. So out of the 20 some thousand people that have taken it so far, there have been a tremendous amount of people who are emotional, who identify with being emotional. And it really kind of speaks to, I think, what's going on in the world right now. Because of that, I was like, it would, statistically, to kind of see how many people are actually emotional and identify as that or reveal themselves to be emotional. It just kind of shows you like the sentiment of the race right now, in terms of people just feeling, I think, overly, stimulated with everything that's going on, especially in the political landscape and just the world at large, so it's interesting to see that emotional is like the trait that's kind of the primary one that's been sticking out.
Wow. So emotional meaning like people that are driven by feelings or much more compassionate.
Yeah, when we talk about emotional in the book of Rare Breed, we talk about people who are usually highly intuitive. They have a sensitivity about them. They feel things very deeply. They feel other people's energy very deeply as well. And most of the time, and if you're watching this, and if you've ever been told you're so emotional, you're just too emotional, most of the time it is being said in a very negative context. Especially in business, right? There's a whole movement about vulnerability that we're just now starting to really understand and almost embrace. But for the most part, you're not supposed to be emotional when it comes to business. But we totally disagree with that, because if you can't feel things, if you don't have an intuition about you, if you don't have the instinct, if you don't have the emotional capacity and EQ to really understand how people feel, then everything will fall short. So emotional is such a beautiful quality to possess if you know how to use it to your advantage, because there's a lot of things that it can do to really to backfire as well. But yeah, emotional is a very popular virtue. I think a lot of people associate with that.
Wow. See, there's somebody that comments here. Emotional intelligence is one of the most valuable features.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
Surveys.
Yeah.
It really is. It's such an asset when your sensitivity and when your intuition can really, dissolve barriers between you and other people. But most of the time, the leaders that we have in our business community, they're not they they don't see it that way. They see it as a naivety or as a weakness. And we really see it as a strength when you can learn how to use that vulnerability to connect with others, to build bridges, to really, go to work with other people and do something truly good for humanity. Emotional people are really important to have in business, and that because of that.
Well, that's awesome. Because, like, I think that's so true about the shifting the perception about how not to be emotional or how to be still emotional in a channeling in a good way.
Yeah.
Because, like, nobody really understands maybe that's an art, like that's a skill to possess as well, to really can leverage it into a good outcome.
Yeah.
And speaking of that, maybe just now I want to come back to the rebellious one, and I have this one question that because I'm curious, like how brands can maintain such a balance, because you guys as a brand strategist, you will come up with some strategic direction and also maybe boundaries, right, on how the brand's gonna live in and also going forward. So how to be in this strategic boundaries, but as well as breaking limits.
Yeah, I think what it is more so that, as Ashley was saying, you can't be rebellious for the sake of being rebellious. There has to be a cause. There has to be a reason. You can't be a rebel without a cause, right? And I think companies that we work with specifically, I think they really do struggle with wanting to come to the table, and they have very, very rebellious ideas of how they want to disrupt an industry or how they want to break barriers and break down walls and shake the pillars of business. But what you see and what you often find is that those dreams, they cannot fully realize them. They don't have the power or the bandwidth within the organization or the clout within the organization to make that happen, because it's usually like, a founder, then there's structure, there's employees, and there's kind of a leadership team. And sometimes what we see in companies is that swell of rebellious ideas. The further they go up the ladder, the more they get crushed. Those dreams get crushed. Those big rebellious ideas kind of just lose steam. And so it's a rare thing to find a company, I believe, we've worked with thousands of them at this point, that truly embrace the rare breed ethos and know how to apply it within the organization, but also not just at how they operate, but actually how they employ their team. So it's rare breed's interesting because you have rare breed leadership and an organization, but you also have people within the organization who may be rare breeds themselves, that organization doesn't even know what to do with them. So you want the rebel at the table. You want the, someone with audacity. You want somebody with obsession. You want somebody with emotion. Like, you want all these people at your table, and yet big companies are kind of scared of them because they're like, what if they go rogue? What if they, what if they kind of overthrow, what we have? And so what so much of our work has now become is now going into companies and organizations to not only teach them this rare breed framework of how to think more rebellious, how to think more audacious, how to actually not just be those things like in theory, but actually really implement them and take action on them. And then the second part of what we do now is we help them understand the rare breed talent within their organization so that they can celebrate them and lift them up and use them as a competitive advantage. Because if you know how to do both sides of that coin, then you can employ like a lot of the principles within the book. So, you know, we do brand strategies all day long, but so much of why those things fail is not because the strategy wasn't good. It was that the company didn't have the courage to take action on it.
Yeah, because you asked a very interesting question. What are you, you know, if you're crafting a rebellious strategy,
Yeah.
you know, how do you put guardrails around that? Well, the answer is you can't really. I mean, you can't say you can be a little rebellious, but not too much. That's the problem. People, you have to go all in on this kind of stuff. You have to be it or not be it. You can't be it 50% or 15%. You know, you got to be at 100%. So when it comes to guardrails, I mean, the guardrails are the things that start to chip away at the true, the potential of something. The guardrails are what totally makes that potential not become realized. So if we get lucky enough, and we are sometimes lucky enough to work with a truly rebellious organization who is designed, whose purpose is to revolutionize something, to overthrow what is not working in an effort to build something new. That is, you know, that kind of strategy is incredible, but it really requires 150% commitment to that strategy, to being rebellious. You can't say you're one thing and not live up to it, from even just an operational standpoint too, inside the business. Because branding is not, you know, a message to an audience. Branding is what is inside inherently in the DNA, baked in the DNA of a business, of an organization. So that organization has to be and live and think and breathe rebelliously. If it just has a rebellious message, but it is not in and of itself rebellious, it's just like fluff, right? It's just talk and no walk. And that's brands don't work that way. Brands can't succeed that way.
Wow, that's totally changing my mindset about that. Really, really good. But yeah, because it's true. Because brand owners or maybe some business owners, oh my God, like to explain to them, not even like so rebellious, okay, just like a little bit outrageous, they will have some processing thoughts to it. But
and then that is, you know, maybe their virtue is something else, right? Maybe they, you know, our goal is not to force these virtues onto people who don't inherently naturally exhibit them. It's to say, if you are rebellious by nature, if this is who you are, really learn to lean into that. But if you're not rebellious by nature, find a different virtue that is more authentic to who you are, because you can be just as successful that way. It's just a matter of really like leaning into who you are. So maybe you're not rebellious. Maybe you're more audacious in your thinking. Maybe you're a little crazy in the way that you think. Maybe you're more hypnotic and you like to cast a spell, or maybe you are more weird and you need to kind of really lean into that. So I believe that any business can be successful by just owning who they are and being honest about that, and being truly like being provocative with who they are, and figuring out how to develop a brand around that. This is not about really attaching something else because it's cool or it works or whatever to a business. It's about helping a business become more of who it inherently is.
Wow, that's really good. And maybe I like the idea on how to actually learn to somehow try to turn your weakness into strength, maybe. Because like, the ones that actually not acceptable for other people are usually tend to be in the weakness category, right? And somehow just now Sunny was mentioning about a cause, which means like some brands are actually find their purpose within a cause or within social needs that are not yet come up with any solutions yet. So I just want to ask, is it advisable to attach your business plan with social mission activation and show every brand owners also become an activist in that selected fields.
Take care, me. Go ahead. I don't think every business can, because it's not natural to every leader to be that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes you get this sort of purpose washing, thing going on where, companies think that they have to have some very impactful, big, important, cause-driven purpose in order for consumers to want to do business with them. And sometimes that's true and sometimes that's not. I don't think that every business has to have that social mission to it. I do believe that a lot of the future of business is very socially minded. I do think there is sort of a people, planet, profit kind of way forward that more and more businesses are starting to embrace. And they're starting to see the value in treating people well and with respect and taking care of our planet and, making a healthy profit at the same time. But I think if it makes sense for the business and the people who run the business, to embrace a cause and it's something that they truly believe in, then yes, by all means, like make that the core of the business.
But I think that every organization has to have a purpose.
Every organization does have to have a purpose, but some of them you don't. It's hard to, sometimes, when we're working with some companies, it's hard to tease out what that purpose is, and that's usually because a lot of leaders are a little lost on that. Like they're like, well, I'm just here to do my job. But what I'm saying is that eventually
that not having a purpose, not having a war cry, as we call it, a motto, or a brand motto, so to speak, is you have to have something that other people are willing to go to battle with you for. And if you don't have a purpose, it makes that very difficult to communicate. Why are we getting up and coming here every day if we don't actually know what we're fighting for? What is it that we're trying to, what territory are we trying to own? Where are we trying to put that flag in the ground in order to claim that this is ours? And I think companies that don't have that lack clarity. They lack they lack a fundamental path forward because there's nowhere to go. You've got to have somebody who's got the flag and going there, like this is why we're fighting. This is what we're doing. This is what we believe in. This is who we are. This is what we'll stand for. This is what we won't stand for. If you don't have those fundamental pieces of the puzzle, it makes it very difficult to share with anyone else why they should come and be a part of that movement with you. Why should they fight with you if they don't know what and why they're there?
And we call it's essentially the business doesn't have any meaning. There's no meaning to it. It doesn't mean anything. So when a company or a brand doesn't mean anything, it's almost like it shouldn't exist at all.
And really any agency can kind of, we have a saying at Motto specifically. I saw Ryan join, Ryan interned with us. I don't know if he's still on, but hey, Ryan, I saw you. Yeah. We love Ryan. But it's funny. We have this sort of saying at Motto specifically that any agency can make you look pretty, but not every agency can make you matter. And I really believe that Motto knows how to make companies matter. And that is something that we have spent more than a decade of our careers really dedicated to finding out how we could help companies who didn't have the words that they needed, but had a strong purpose. They knew that they were trying to fight for something. Sometimes they just needed the language to be able to put it into something that everyone else could rally around. Yeah. And so, that has been kind of the course of our careers, helping organizations try to articulate what that actually means, how other people... Are you in a car?
I am. That's an apartment. And
that's awesome. I just saw the car drive by. I
not.
Yeah. Oh my God, it's so cool. Like we're not in a car, but that's awesome. But anyway,
What you're saying is you got to have something. You have to have something to say, not just something to sell. I mean, way too many companies just try to sell. Just products and just sell me something. But what are they saying? What is it that they stand for? And that's the thing that businesses should really be latching into to build that emotional connection with their audience and have their brand mean something to them at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think that's very true. Because like for me, I think Indonesian market are very, very new in terms of brand purpose. Maybe for the most well-established companies, like local companies that have already stand maybe almost 25 years above, they kind of get it. But also maybe they have it, but they don't really perform it yet or activate their purpose. It's just like a purpose is there to just serve in the sentences, to serve as where if people ask them what are standing for, just for them to answer. But
it's just they're checking the boxes, you know. But you'll always know, and that those kinds of companies are very difficult to work because you're pulling the wagon uphill by yourself. You're trying to give them a purpose. You're trying to give them a vision when there is none, and that is a bad client for you. If this is what your agency does and this is what you look for, there's certain criteria that company needs to meet. So when someone comes to Motto specifically, we've gotten extremely rigorous about the questions that we ask, the qualifications. We are going through a series of questions and trying to probe that company to say, are you the right fit for us? Because you may not be the right fit for this, and that's okay. Because I'd rather work with somebody that there's no money in the world that can that can compensate for the anguish that you feel when there is not alignment in a company and thinking. Now, that's not to say that we haven't very early in our careers done just about everything and anything and have sold our asses like many times.
You mean here? Yeah.
Literally like taking on projects that we were like, no, this is not the right fit for us. But you do that when you're building and you're also, you don't know the difference between what is good and what is right for you because you just don't know. You're just trying to get your agency off the ground. You're just trying to build your systems and your processes and exactly, friction like that sounds stressful. It absolutely is. And it's not until you've gone through many of those kinds of projects that you look back and you're like, there wasn't enough money you could have paid me to like go through that process because the company that's sitting across the table from you doesn't want to build the pillars the way that they need to. They want it quick, they want it fast, they want it cheap. And they're overlooking all of the most important parts of the business that they need to have in order to succeed. So it's taken us a really long time to figure out who's a good fit and who's not. And we've had many failures, bad fits, terrible fits. And yet we've had some amazing companies that we have transformed, and we started to be able to kind of make sense of why did that work? Why was that so successful? And why was this not? And you begin to see what you will compromise on and what you won't. And you know, as an agency owner or somebody that's leading the charge for your own company, you begin to see the flags. You just get good at reading just sometimes even from the moment someone reaches out to you, just by the way that they inquire. If you get really good at it, you will begin to see patterns in how someone has reached out to you in their email. They've given you one-word answers. You can tell they don't care. They're just trying, they've reached out to 90 different agencies. They don't know who the hell they've talked to. And that is, you don't want that client. You just don't want that client.
Because
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's really important on how we invest our time on things that we care about and how to somehow impact the industry as well. Like not just do the same. I think not. I mean, in Jakarta there are also plenty of design studios, branding studios, and not so many are pushing the boundaries of how to make their work meaningful, and also for other brands to be able to have a purpose there. And to be very honest, my very first client, which is in 2015, very first client, and my company name is HigherPurpose, right? And the project was titled, and the brand name is Tipsy. So while I'm doing Tipsy brand, I was like, where's the higher purpose of Tipsy? But no, that particular client is actually a key to another connection that leads to another connection. So that's a blessing in disguise, I think. And
did you get tipsy when you were working with them?
yeah. So it is funny, but okay, maybe one last question before we end this, and how to embrace somehow brands' radicality or weirdness to become, like you said, their USP, but also to be relevant in the market. So you are so out of the couch, and then how to also be relevant.
Yeah, you can push weirdness too far, right? To where it's so obscure and it's so left field that it doesn't make sense to people, and your reaction is what? Like I just don't get it. So I think when it comes to weirdness, which is one of the 7 virtues that we talk about, it is really important because weirdness is such a gift. But yes, you can push it too far. I think that it's figuring out within your context, within your frame of reference, how to be if you're weird, and this is only applying if you are weird, like if you're not weird, don't try to be weird. I think I should.
That's awkward.
That's a really good tip.
Yeah. Again, this is not about like trying to force some of these things on you if you're not that to begin with. That's not what this is about. So if you are weird and you're wondering how to embrace that weirdness and make it relevant to your brand or your business or your career even, I think the thing is like creativity really works. A lot of people just do not flex their creativity enough. There was, and we write about this one example in the book, which I think is incredible, but there was a guy here in the US and he's a copywriter, and he wanted to go to work to write for Sprite, the brand Sprite, for Whedon and Kennedy. And they had an open job posting for that, and I can only imagine the many hundreds or thousands of applications or resumes that they received for this particular job.
We get those kind of resumes where they're like,
where you get them, you're like, dear sir,
you didn't do your research.
I think I'd make a great asset to your team because blah 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 blah.
Like, and then they're like, we love the work you did for Coke, and we're like,
really? We haven't worked for Coke.
Didn't work for Coke, but all right.
No, we did a lot, no, but so you can imagine in a situation like that how many copywriters were competing for that position, right? So this guy, his name is Chase, instead of doing a typical resume and maybe printing it out, maybe mailing it in, maybe emailing it, who knows what, instead of doing that, he decided to get super creative, and he wrote a rap video for Sprite and about how he wanted to write for Sprite.
He like dressed up in like a gold chains with like lines.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Awesome.
But it's the weirdest thing you have ever seen.
We'll send you a link to it. It's amazing. I mean, it's just totally brilliant.
Yeah, but it's hilarious.
He got the job,
because
right?
He talks about like writing for Sprite, and he's on this hoverboard, and he's got this lime green Sprite colored jacket on with like a chain and like a lemon, and like he's all decked out, and it's so funny.
It's awesome.
And he does this like 3-minute rap video that he writes and like performs while they're doing the video about his desire to write for Sprite. And it's that example of how to be so weird in something that weirdness is what gets you noticed, and that weirdness is what gets you hired. Because who did they hire? They hired him. Because he stood out the most. So it's like, I think the thing about that is just learning how to take your little, your brand of eccentricities, your personal brand of weirdness.
Yeah, it's like Tim Burton. Like Tim Burton, a Tim Burton movie. Like he got fired from Disney. I mean, like for Frankenweenie. Like Frankenweenie was like way too weird for Disney. They were like, I don't know about that. But he went on to become Tim Burton. He's the genius weirdo who people like. His films are unforgettable. So I really think it's about owning that. He owns that. He knows who he is. He celebrates it. And that's really what we talk about in Rare Breed. We share a lot of stories. We share our own story of things that we did. And many, many stories that kind of have these weird, each chapter in the book has these sort of mini chapters that are these like aphorisms, if you will. We have a chapter in there called Massage the Octopus. We have, and it's like find your 4 a.m. and try 960 times. And we have so many, of these kind of like ethos ideas of strange things that you can apply to your career and your business that a lot of people would not expect to see. So it's kind of an interesting thing. But I saw like some questions coming in. We'd be happy to answer some questions. I saw somebody ask, how do you turn down a client like that?
Go ahead.
So how do you turn down a client like that? Well, I think you get more courage as you've been through some bad ones.
Or maybe you get some more pride or arrogance because of the portfolio you've built.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's arrogance. I just truly think that it's more about not willing to take the black eyes in the same way that you did when you started, because you're better, you're smarter, you know the work that you do, you know what you're capable of, and you begin to become less and less tolerant of stupidity. You're less and less tolerant of stupidity, and you don't want to waste your time, your team's time. You don't want to put your team in a situation that they will not be valued, that they're going to keep hitting a brick wall. That's not good for morale. It's not good for their creativity, and it's not good for what they have to take home every night, because you take that kind of experience, like whether you're the owner of the company or you're working on the project, like it stays with you. And so we have just tried to find companies and organizations that really align with who we are, what we stand for. We believe that we can help, and we are able to know that we can transform them, because there's so much hard work to do, and they have to be ready. They have to be in the right mindset for it. They have to know what they're trying to do. They have to believe that there is more for them, and that they're willing to evolve, and they're looking to you for guidance, because you know what you're doing. And if they're going to come in there and tell you how to make the burger well done, it's just not going to be a great experience, right? Because that's going to be a tug of war. So we've tried really hard to find organizations that we believe that the leadership team that we're going to be partnering with, we're interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing us.
We assess them on their mindset. We look for, does this person or does this team or does this leader have a fixed mindset or a growth mindset? And the difference between those two different mindsets that we all have, one or the other, is really important. We can't work with fixed mindset people. It just doesn't it doesn't end well. It doesn't result in a positive outcome most of the time.
And also,
and we know that because we have worked with both of that. So,
yeah. And I would also say that, like, for visionaries that you work with who are usually kind of really far out, you know, most of the visionary people that we work with, just they're on another level. It's important to make sure that that visionary has a wingman, so that there's somebody who's the dreamer and there's somebody who's the doer.
Wow,
And if you can find that pattern between those two people in that organization, it allows for realizing the big ideas, but also having someone who's kind of like looking around and knows that they're in reality and can kind of make some decisions that help us get to the big vision, but also, you know, you're not just working with somebody who's just completely outlandish and like doesn't have any sense of reality at all. So that makes it really challenging too. You know, and also trying to avoid, you know, so much layers of decision making that there's so many holes shot in these great ideas that you can't recognize it anymore by the time it gets to the top. That's really challenging as well. So I think we really look for teams and organizations that they're willing to walk to the ledge, but they're also willing to leap. Who's the dreamer between the two of you? Oh, definitely me. Definitely me. Oh, absolutely. Ash is like, oh my God, stop with the ideas. I was like, we could completely restructure our entire way that we take our intake. Like when people inquire, she's like, no.
Sunny is the big idea person. She has an endless supply of ideas.
Yeah.
I'm the one that figures out which ones to push forward and which ones to make happen, because I have the more strategic mindset.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a really great combination of you two. Just, I mean, you stay that way. You stay that way.
I mean, we blend like on everything. I mean, it's not like I don't come up with ideas or Sunny doesn't do something to execute, because she's a very operational person as well. Like she's a very systematic and process driven person. So she's kind of rare in that regard. So we share a brain in a really weird way. I mean, we've known each other for more than 20 years, so we're very like in tune with each other. It's really nice to be able to have somebody like that, though, that you can fully trust, you know, and that you can.
But it took a long time.
It takes a long time
for
to
many
build
many
something
years. Like we did not know what the strength of the other person was. Like as you know, for people that have co-founders or partnerships, like it, you know, that took a lot of learning. I mean, because we never could understand like what, like we were doing a lot of the same things, and then we were started to learn as we were evolving that one was good at one thing and the other one was good at something else, and then, you know, we sort of learned that. But I saw some really cool questions come in. I don't know.
We need to end because like it's 5 more seconds.
Baby, can we get right tonight? Can we get right tonight? Can we get right? Whoa, oh, oh, oh. Hey, I need some.